it gets specifically more difficult for people who are expecting something. But there's this not understanding, right, of not seeing things on the same level, right? But specifically, yeah, the woman in that case, right, has been waiting back at the cave all day. You don't know what her day was like, you know. Maybe she kept trying to shoo the saber-toothed tigers out, you know, protect the children, and she's like, "Where the hell have you been?" You know, right? So where the problem is that when people start having expectations about other people, right? But when it comes to just pure energetics, and why I asked is like, what did you want in that situation? So when you said Hallmark moment, because specifically, I think we're all of these things, and we're all blends of these things, right? But where it becomes critical is when we're talking about sex, right? So if the caveman came home with these gifts and, you know, the mastodon that he killed or whatever. Right. Because he wanted to get laid. Now we're talking about a whole different story. For me, anyway. The rest of it is
it's probably the caveman figured that would be incoming
as
a part of the Hallmark moment. He didn't just want the Hallmark moment.
I don't think so.
He wanted the heroic return.
Yes.
And he wanted, you know, he was thinking that this was going to make a big impression, and something else happened.
Yes.
Right. So maybe the caveman should have just said, wow, I'm getting yelled at. Okay. Well, so we're going to be extending be extending the challenge of the trip a little bit. And maybe if he could have just, I don't know, because I watched this other podcast, maybe he should have been like, oh, well, she's not that happy with the furs, but maybe it's not that. Maybe I'll just let her say what she needs to say.
Well, we did talk about that on the previous podcast,
right?
That you did. So that is a really good way to realize that what's going on doesn't have anything to do with you. But you brought up an interesting point that I like talking about, because we've been talking about the masculine a lot.
Right.
And I don't want guys who are watching this to think, why are we always picking on the masculine? But these are the questions that you're asking.
We're always picking on the masculine. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's absolutely not true, because there's a responsibility for, you know, the lunar yin energy in that situation too. Both partners should be mindful of what the other person is going through. Now, do we get into situations where we lose our shit and we forget about it? Absolutely, right? But in that case, you brought up something that I like to use for, you have some confusions about like what is the, you know, going on through her head right now. But also, I think the other point of view, from the cave woman point of view, like the one, is that when your partner comes home, right, the more solar partner comes home with whatever it is they've brought home, as part of that disconnect, right, of the world outside. And the reason why I say it happens with both people is because the way society is, you know, both people in a partnership tend to have jobs, and most jobs require you to operate in a lot of masculine energy. So it's extremely likely, you're using a kind of an old-fashioned dynamic, but it's extremely likely that both people come home in this very solar-focused state, and they don't have space for the other person too, right? And again, you can do whatever you want. I mean, we have both of those energies, right? So recognizing where your partner is at is really good, but that's probably a little more advanced training. So in order to keep it simple, we'll just assume in the relationship that there's somebody who's primarily solar, yang, and there's somebody who's primarily yin and lunar, okay? In that case, the responsibility of the lunar, and then we'll go to the responsibility of the solar, so people don't think I'm always picking on guys. But I've been interviewing a lot of masculine energy people, and they always want to know. But to take a pause, and don't take it personally, but to look at your partner as the wounded warrior. And this can work for both, right? So, and that's why I said in a lot of partnerships, Today you have two people who are having to be in their solar energy a lot during the day, focused, with work.